Have you ever played Stardew Valley or Sunhaven or other games like such and saw these epic character portraits and thought, wait a minute, how come my character doesn't get one? Well, I did, which is why I made a promise to myself that if I ever made my dream game, any player can make a portrait of their character. But my dream game is still just a dream. I am what you call a beginner in the game dev space. I mean, my previous video was of me making my first ever game, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I do want to start working on things that I'm a little bit more passionate about, which is why I want to start making prototypes for my dream game. I think it's a good way to get my feet wet with bigger projects without the need to actually complete like a whole game. And for this video, as you can tell by the title, I want to make a character creation screen prototype. So the plan is I want to make a character creator where you not only make your like little mini pixel art character that like most games have, but also a matching character portrait for when you like do dialogue and stuff. And obviously I'll be doing this in my usual pixel art style. Here's some stuff that I've posted in the past. This one is a animation I made for like a mock-up of a cutscene I wanted to add one day. I didn't know how to code, so instead of learning how to code, I just made a fake one with animation. And I'll actually be reusing some assets because I still like them and I want to use them in my future game anyway. So the first thing I did was actually mess around in Godot, like trying to see how I can modulate multiple things at once, figuring out the color picker because it's a very new thing for me. Oh, also shout out to this person for commenting this on my last video. It actually inspired me to read up on the documentation. Anyways, this is what I ended up making. It's like a very rudimentary proof of concept. And yeah, as you can tell, so when you press on the different colors on the color picker, it'll actually change the mini you, but also the portrait you. Also, just for testing purposes, I did this thing where if you press space, the face features will change. I just wanted to see the best course of action for like how to go about changing facial features. And I think the best way is to actually just make a sprite sheet where each horizontal frame is like a new eye option or nose option. Because when you modulate that one sprite, it'll modulate the whole sprite sheet. If that makes sense? Okay, so after that, I got my notebook out and I just started sketching around, just like different placements and different ideas for like the screen, because UI design is something that I am very insecure about. It's just something I struggle with, as you can tell from my last game. Bruh. So I wanted to spend my time making sure it's user-friendly but also aesthetically pleasing. I ended up with this like rough placement and then I brought it to Procreate to flesh it out. So for some reason I've been really into this like purple, orange, yellow color scheme, which brought me to the idea of like a folder, which I thought really fit a character creator screen because I feel like you see a lot of those like victim or suspect folders in cop shows. So I don't know, I thought that was fitting. And as usual, I am using the Resurrect 64 palette from Low Spec. This palette has been with me my whole pixel art journey. So if you're somebody who struggles with palettes, I really recommend this one. And once I was done, I imported it all into Godot, slapped on a shader to the background to make it move diagonally. And there is a link in the description if you want to see where I got the code for that, because I don't know anything about shaders, okay? And yeah, the reason why I chose this like checkered pattern with a diagonal movement is because the games that inspire my dream game are like WarioWare or Cooking Mama or Tamagotchi Corner Shop. And I feel like this background is kind of giving that. And yeah, after that, we're pretty much done with the base of the main screen UI. So the next thing I had to tackle was creating the actual assets I would need. This includes like the face, the hair, the clothes. But just to keep myself on track, here are 3 things that are going to be important to me. Number 1 is cohesiveness in art style. A lot of people think pixel art is an art style, but technically things can look very different just from a difference in resolution, in color palette, in person to person. So I'm going to try to prioritize consistency of art style over realism. Number 2 is quality over quantity. Because technically it would be super easy for me to make like 10 different eyebrows that are all just like a straight line on your forehead that are different in thickness. But that doesn't look good, does it? And lastly, inclusivity. So growing up, I played a lot of dress-up games, like on those like shady game websites. And I knew that a lot of people had a hard time seeing themselves in those games. And that is so unfair. So I wanted to make sure that at least in my game, I can provide a lot of options for everybody. But I am still learning, so I will be using references from Pinterest and stuff. I'll try to include them on the screen. And please, 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 if you have any feedback or anything you want to add, anything you want to change, just so you can see yourself in this character creator, let me know in the comments down below and I will try to add them ASAP. So, getting into the creation of the assets, the first thing I did was make the face shapes, or I guess it was more so like the jaw shapes. I tried to add some variety just so you can get that base right, you know? And then I made the eye shapes. The way I did this was I actually made a base for like the eyeball and the pupil, which the pupil, or I guess the iris, you can like modulate. And then over that is a layer for like the eyelids and the surrounding areas. After that, I made the noses. And for this one, I tried to make sure that I stick with my usual art style. So I tried to not go too realistic, but just enough so that hopefully everybody has an option for their nose. And lastly, I made the lips. So I saw that some of my previous characters had their lips like slightly open even though they weren't smiling. So like you could still see their teeth, kind of like Debbie Ryan style. So I wanted to add that as an option as well. And the way I did this was similar to how I did the eyes. I actually just like put teeth and then drew the lips over it. And so whenever I wanted to make one of those lips that's like a little bit like, I would just leave that part open. At this point, I was kind of tired of drawing, so I put a pause on that. So for now, I imported all of that into Godot and started figuring out like putting all that on the screen. Oh, and originally I made all of these with like this skin tone color, just so it's like easier for me to see the vision. But that won't work with like self-modulation and stuff. What you need to do is make it black and white. And so what I did was I brought it into Photoshop first, laid them all out next to each other to make a sprite sheet. And then I added this effect group that kind of had like a gradient map effect on it. And as you can tell, it's not really black and white. It has a little like hint of blue in the shading. And the reason for that is hue shifting. This is a game changer. If you are new to pixel art or anything, please look into hue shifting. It just gives a lot of pixel art like more dimension, and I don't know, for me personally, 9 times out of 10 it makes things look better. Anyways, now that I have all of those assets in, I can start figuring out like the buttons and stuff. So I figured that I wanted to have the color picker and also some color presets always available to you on the right side, and then the left side will be where your options are. So I had to watch a couple tutorials and read up on some documentation on the scroll container. And then getting into the buttons or the options, the first thing I did were the faces. And the faces are quite large, so if I just had them the same size, it would kind of take up the whole scroller. So what I ended up doing was I made it like half the size, just so when you scroll, it doesn't take a bazillion years to get to the bottom. And at first, I was kind of annoyed by it because it ruined the whole pixel art resolution. But then I realized nobody cares. Like, who cares? Like, if you care, maybe you should tell me and like spam in the comments or something. Like, at least give me the engagement, you know? Anyways, here's what it looks like. And let's just say I may have abused this little thing called signals. So signals are great. They're usually like a very easy way to make buttons work and stuff. But like I said, I'm a beginner, so I did not know anything about button groups, which meant that I, at this point at least, was connecting each button by hand, one by one. Yeah. And although I figured out I could actually utilize ChatGPT to like repeat some code so I didn't have to type like button 1, button 2, and 3, I still had to press the signals and connect and everything. And this was when I realized there has to be a better way, but I was just kind of like in the group, so I like didn't really think about it. And after that, I started working on the eyes. And for the eyes specifically, I wanted to put them in like little boxes. I thought it made more sense than to have like the eyes kind of just like floating there. And this is when I decided I also wanted people to be able to change the height of certain features, but I didn't want people to be able to like put their eyes like above their forehead. So I added this in the code just to make sure that the eyes were in between a certain area on the face. And then I made this up and down button that will show up when you press the eyes. Other than that, I pretty much did the same thing for the noses and the lips as well. But since the nose will always follow the skin color, I kind of got rid of the color options for that one. And for the lip color, originally it will always follow your skin tone, but I wanted the option for like if you wanted like lipstick or something. I added some presets of different lip colors and also a color picker, but I wanted to give the option for you to get rid of the lipstick, so I added this one with a cross that will bring you back to your skin tone, you know, if you want the more natural look. And now that I've made buttons for all the assets I've already made, it is time to go on to the next thing, which is the hair. And I guess also the eyebrows, but mostly the hair. Anyways, the way I drew the hair was as 3 separate layers. So the first one is the top layer, kind of like the parts that will show up in front of your shirt. So for example, like these bangs over here. And then the next layer is the bottom layer of the hair. So it's the ones that are gonna like show up behind your shirt, kind of like the ones here. And lastly, just like the outline that's gonna show up on the outside of your hair. And then I made a bunch of eyebrows, which took me like 5 minutes, so. Oh, and since the hair sprites were huge, I thought that it'd be better if the buttons were of the mini version of the hair sprites. Which brings us to the next part, which is drawing the assets for the mini character. I can't believe we just left this man standing, cold, naked. Let's fix that, shall we? First, I drew all the hair assets to match the ones I made for the portrait version, and I plopped them into the button slots. Voila! Next, I made some tops, just some simple ones. And I wanted the ability to layer stuff, so I also made these outers. And then I made the bottoms. A little skirt, a little shorty shorts, some jeggings perhaps. And before I plopped them all in as buttons, I made the portrait versions of the tops and the outers as well. But not the bottom, because you can't see it. And now I plopped them into Godot, and here's what we have. Next, we will tackle the accessories. So these are like additionals that includes like glasses, eyeshadow, beards, wrinkles, and most importantly, the buccal fat removal. And some of these are toggleable, so you can stack them on top of each other. And for those ones, I added like little check marks so that you know which ones you have on and which ones you have off. And also here are the facial hair options. Oh, and I forgot to mention that for the eyebrows and also the facial hair, you can change the color so that it doesn't match your hair. I do give the option to like cancel anything you did and make it go back to your original hair color. And then I made the mini versions of those. And while working on these accessories, aka the last thing I did, this is where I found out about button groups. Just let me show you what it looks like before when I had to do it all by hand. And now this is what it looks like with button groups. So, yeah. Okay, moving on. I had this little like calendar thingy on the bottom because I wanted people to be able to put their birthdays in. And since the game is going to be following seasons, kind of like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley, instead of months, your options are the seasons. So like spring and summer and fall and winter. And there will only be a maximum of 28 days because the way the calendar works in those games, and it actually makes more sense, is that it like goes to 28. So sorry people born after the 29th. I'm kidding. Actually, fun fact, it's my birthday while shooting this, so. Oh, and before I forget, I also added like a place where you can type your name in. And speaking of names, I added a little Easter egg where if you type Shrek with a capital S, his little ears are gonna show up on your character. And it's gonna stay there even if you change your name, but to get rid of it, you just have to type no Shrek. Next, I added some sounds. I got these simple button pressing sounds on Zapsplat, and it's not really a mini-minnow game without some mini-minnow music. So I quickly went onto Ableton and I made this goofy little background music. Okay, so I'm gonna play you what I have. It's kind of simple. I mean, it feels like a lot, but there's not a lot in it. Enjoy. Speaking of music, my main job is actually singer-songwriter, so if you guys want to check out my music, it is Stephanie Poetri on any music platforms. And I actually have some music coming out this year that I'm super excited about, so yeah. And then I added this like randomize button, and at first it was just to provide randomization, but then I realized it was actually a great way to test up like the way different assets matched up. And I found places where like the pixels were just like not lining up, so I went and fixed that. Also, I added in the code for the randomization if the hair that was randomized were one of the hijab ones. The randomized item of clothing would be an appropriate one for that. And at this point, the main screen was done. But, you know, we all know a game can't just be its main screen. So the first thing I did was actually make a results screen. I wanted a screen that would show your character and its like mini version, almost like in a dialogue. So your character would say like, hi, my name is blah, 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 my birthday is on blah, blah, blah. Nice to meet you. But to get the information from one scene to another, I had to use this thing called autoloads or singletons. And it's this nifty thing that keeps information throughout all of your scenes. And then I made the starting screen. Just so when you load the game, you don't get jump scared by a randomized person staring into your soul. And for the starting screen, I made this like title. And I added a floaty and also a glare animation to it, which I really liked. I thought that it was very reminiscent of those old Nintendo games I was talking about. And to match that, I wanted to add transition scenes that also had that like retro vibe. So I followed this tutorial and I added a star as a shape, and I thought that it looked really cute. And that's how I made Munimono's character creator prototype. This was my first ever personal devlog project and my second ever game, and it took way longer than I thought, approximately about like a month and a half, but I learned so much and I had a great time making this. One thing that was kind of concerning was I realized I was doing everything on like one main script, which I don't think is the best idea. Also, once again, if you have any ideas or requests for features to add, please let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I'm trying to be inclusive, so if you see anything that I messed up or didn't include, please understand it comes from a place of incompetence and not malice. So please, if you see anything I need to change or add, please comment them down below and I will try to fix them or add them ASAP. But anyways, let's get into the gameplay, shall we? So here's a speedy video of me trying to make myself. It's kind of hard making yourself sometimes because I don't really know what I really look like, but I just tried to base off of myself from the video, so I tried to match my shirt and my hair and stuff. And here are some attempts of me making my fiance, Shrek, Timothy Chalamet, a cute grandma, and last but not least, my favorite marriage candidate from Stardew Valley. Sorry, not sorry. Anyways, if you want to try this character creator out, the link is going to be in the description. It is uploaded on my itch.io page. And once again, warning, if you are on a Mac, please do not open this on Google Chrome because it will like crash your browser basically. And it's not my fault, okay? It's Godot's or Google's fault. Okay, so don't blame me. I gave you a warning. Please open it on Safari. But if you're on a Windows, it's fine. Do whatever you want. And if you end up making a character, please take a screenshot and tag me. I'm Munimono on most social medias. But if you can't find me, I made sure to add my accounts in the description below. Anyways, I hope you all have a super amazing day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!